is Paul Jenkins, Managing Director of UK Packaging Innovation Consultancy, ThePackHub. I'm delighted to be joined today by Kerry Sanders, Vice President of eCommerce at EFI. Welcome, Kerry.
Hello, Paul. How are you?
I'm very good. Thank you very much. Looking forward to a really insightful conversation over the next few minutes or so. What do you sort of see as the biggest innovations in digital print for corrugated packaging that kind of enable better business outcomes for both brands and retailers?
Yeah, I think I mentioned it, speed. So over the past several years, these presses have only gotten faster and their duty cycles have only gotten larger or bigger. And so its ability to address large packaging application requirements, large being long run, is getting better and better. So that's one. This idea that we're not using plates in the printing process, so there's no registration problems. There's no, you don't have to buy a plate, send it off to, a company that will manufacture the plate, get it back, none of that. So kind of the speed of this process, because it's a digital process, the turnaround times, if you will, for the kind of the pre-press process is in hours. It's not days, right? So that's a big thing for retail. You think about retail these days, it's about speed, right? It's about you have a viral moment, so you need to react to that viral moment and all things related, right? You have a lifetime offer, limited time offer that you want to put out. You've got too much of something, and so you want to do a pricing promotion and you need to get it out. Well, if packaging can't keep up with that, that's a problem, right? Yeah. And so with this turnaround time and efficiency, because it's a digital process, that's a big deal. Cost, I think that's another thing that we find there's not a lot of awareness about this, or it's an education opportunity. So the cost for digital printing is associated with the amount of ink that's used, not the number of colors, right? So traditionally, what brand managers are being told by the people that do their packaging is, hey, you're only limited to 2 colors because it's too expensive. And so they have to dumb down their designs in order to fit a commercial model, right? And so the brand engagement, which we've talked about already, is less than ideal, right? And so typically what you receive is a 1 to 2 color box that has what we call flood coat on it. It's just 1 to 2 colors and it's all the same color, or the variation of the 2. Well, when you're designing for digital, and I think we're going to have a tutorial with the ThePackHub here coming up, brand managers, creatives can now think about, hey, I'm not limited by colors. I'm limited by the amount of ink I'm being used. So I'm unlimited, I guess is the best way to say it. So they can start doing all kinds of cool, fun, playful, and creative things with decorating their corrugated packaging. And we're good at helping those brands then measure how much ink is being used. And we can tweak that with the design so that the cost compares for digital get better and better and better over time, related to that simple 1 to 2 color flood coat flexo box that everybody doesn't like, right? So I think that's been a big one. And the type of printing that we're talking about is printing directly onto the corrugated board, right? There's not a lamination process involved here. So what we're seeing some brands do is they choose the craft board, if you will, as the background. And then we print directly onto that at very high speeds. And that does 2 things. One, it takes cost down, but 2, it communicates sustainability. You'd be amazed that when you pick up, 2 versions of a e-commerce box, if you will. One of them is on a white background, like a Kimi board. One of them is on a craft background. Everybody always says that craft background looks more sustainable, right? It just does. And, we have white ink on our presses. And so the ability to print directly onto a craft background with white ink, and then the other inks and colors that we have, we print 97% of the Pantones. It goes directly onto the craft board. It's a very sustainable presentation, but you get all of this kind of high graphic requirement that we talked about. That's been a big innovation as well. We see that gaining momentum in the market.
Brilliant, excellent. I've got to ask, you've spent a lot of time extolling the virtues of digital print in terms of plate changes or lack of, color options in terms of not being limited to the number of colors and speed to change and things like that. Do you feel that message isn't totally understood? It's a bit of a loaded question here. I get the feeling that not the world out there doesn't quite get the opportunity still.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think when we look at the adoption of digital in the overall printing opportunity, it's less than 5%. So it's a green field, essentially. And I think that, one, because it's an emerging technology, but I think two, about maybe 5 years ago, one of our competitors, I think, did a pretty good job at getting the word out on digital and then going to these brands and talking about digital. But at the time, run links and costs weren't where they are today.
Yeah.
And so there was almost a reinforcement in the marketplace that digital was only for low volume, high graphic requirements, and it's almost like a specialty printer. It's not like kind of a core printer to do core applications. That's just not true anymore. That's changed. And so that's exactly what I'm here to do. Is I'm here in my capacity to act somewhat as a brand ambassador for both brands and retailers, and help them understand the digital value proposition, work on a couple of target applications as pilots, do the business case analysis to prove that this is a core part of their branding strategy, and it's affordable, right? So yeah, you're absolutely right. I think our opportunity to drive awareness and education is key.
Yeah, and this is the perfect platform to help move that forward. So we're doing a little bit here, aren't we now? So,
yeah, that's right.
Yeah. So does EFI have a point of view in terms of sort of compelling benefits of the sort of biggest barriers to adopting digitally printed corrugated packaging?
Yeah, we do, and we've talked about some of them already. But let me back up. So when I first got here, we decided to commission some research to understand that question, right? So we had qualitative research, that's interviews, right, with people where, you get one-on-one time with them and you ask them a set of questions. And then quantitative research, that's survey. We did a survey. So essentially we did qualitative research with 70 plus brands, another 20 plus thought leaders. And then we did a quantitative survey with 800 participants. And those participants came from brands, retailers, 3PLs, which is a very interesting category, by the way, and creative agencies. So we wanted to get feedback from all of them. And, so we took the quantitative survey, we took the qualitative reviews, we, kind of synthesized them with some findings. And I would say, the three benefits, which we talked about quite a bit, are generally the package is now a brand activation, right? And digital's ability to allow brand managers and creatives to reach, kind of more creative and test boundaries and, get really, I don't know, playful maybe is the right word on their packaging in order to capture loyalty, is really important. The other one is speed. We talked about this as well, and retail. Retail needs to go fast, and packaging usually is the long pole, in the tent, if you will, on making sure they can go fast, and then sustainability. And we've talked about that. So those are the three benefits, if you will. I think the two barriers are somewhat self-inflicted in the corrugated industry. What we found, and this was really interesting, is that the marketing personas in these brands, they're very interested in the digital print value proposition when we explain it to them, but they have not heard it before we explain it to them, right? So there's this huge education gap, which we've already talked about, where the creatives, the marketing people, the folks that are really interested in driving brand expression are not aware of what they could potentially do with digital, right? And that's fully on the corrugated industry. We haven't done a good job of educating them and explaining what they could do, and then driving a business case, attaching it to a business outcome so they say, yeah, this is worth it, right? So we need to do a better job on that. And the second barrier, I think, is, and it's related, is when I go and talk to our customers, they typically have relationships with brands and retailers that are centered in their purchasing organization, right? Meaning that they're talking about quantity times price, because this is a supply chain item that needs to be, managed better for more efficiency and a lower cost, right? When they do say they have a relationship with marketing, it's typically they're just receiving, a graphic file, and then they just say, yes, sir, and then they go and print, or yes, ma'am, and they go and print. So there's a big opportunity for the corrugated industry to strengthen their relationships with those marketing personas within these brands and retailers. And I think that they're hesitant about that because maybe their marketing acumen is not where it needs to be. It's a whole language, right? I mean, you have to think about things differently when you're thinking about marketing and advertising, and the corrugated industry maybe needs to improve there. And I'm happy to help be a part of that solution.
Okay. And do you have any sort of specific examples that come to mind?
Yeah. So we have a CPG brand right now that we're working with. They have a SIOC opportunity through Amazon. So they're creating what's called a SIOC box. We talked about that, ship and own container. They want to improve the graphics, kind of the creativity and the design of the box, but they also want to treat this as an opportunity to capture first-party data. Think about that, right? If you're shipping something through a marketplace like Amazon or another big e-tailer, you don't necessarily know your customer.
Yeah.
Right. If you can use, let's say, the inside flap of a box to give a call to action, to receive a promo, or to get a message, and they shoot that QR code and you date them, meaning you ask for their contact information to get on a newsletter, let's say, not only did you get the sale, through the SIOC box, but now you have known first-party data for the individual that's consuming your product. And that in and of itself is valuable, right? And I think that's a really creative way to think about SIOC as a growth lever, because then you can remarket to these individuals, right? And we all know it's easier to get, the next sell out of someone who's already a customer than find a new customer, right? So that's one. We've got another fashion brand that's looking, it's a subscription service that's looking to improve graphics on their boxes, but they want to make their boxes more interactive. So, there's a kind of a 3-month campaign that we're looking at right now, where each month in the subscription box, there's going to be a cool call to action that's going to require user-generated content. And user-generated content, UGC, is really powerful, right? Because if you see other users interacting with products, that by definition, is them endorsing the product. And we all react well to endorsements from peers, not just a brand, talking to us. There's another one, to luxury home good that we're working with. They've got a box where they're aligning with an influencer, right? And so they want to increase kind of the branding of that box and the brand experience of that box, because now the influencer is involved, right? So they don't want to just do the typical kind of thing. They want to make this really elegant and really high end. And, digital is a good way to do that, because not only can we do a lot of colors, we can do fun things with coatings to make spot glasses and those kinds of stuff. So right there, they're incorporating all of that into this box to make it, look really cool and have a good kind of feel, because the influencer is involved. So those are 3 that come to mind right now.
Excellent. Some really good examples there. Thank you very much. We're just about to wrap up. How can people get hold of you?
So it's easy to get a hold of me. It's my name, Kerry.Sanders@EFI.com. So KERRY.SANDERS@EFI.com. Or, you can go to our website and consume, some of the information that we've posted there. I'm happy to talk to anybody. I mean, that's my job, is to, to be this educator, if you will, to grow the awareness on the value proposition. And then, things like the tutorials that we're going to host on the ThePackHub is another way for folks to get more information on that. So really looking forward to that.
Thank you. Both your passion and enthusiasm is brilliant and really comes through. So, Kerry Sanders, thank you very much for your time. And it's been a really enjoyable conversation.
Thank you, Paul. Have a good afternoon.